Liz Crosby here with the weekly astrology from April 26th until May 2nd, 2021. A lot happening this week, and of course it is all telltale, indicative of where we are at as a species in our evolutionary process in this planetary ascension. And it is starting to feel like a pressure cooker, especially for those of us that chose to come in to get this planetary ascension going, get the paradigm actually shifting. So the super full moon happens on Monday, and it is all of the fixed aspects of self, right? We have 7 planetary bodies in fixed signs and a massive T-square between the Taurus, stellium, and Saturn and Aquarius. And of course, the opposition between Uranus and the moon, it's huge. And we need to accept the universal laws, these fixed aspects of self. Okay, yeah, gravity is a concept, but if you jump off of a building that's high enough, you're probably going to die because you're going to fall. So yeah, nothing exists, but there are certain rules that the holographic projected reality that we all exist in has to abide by, that we ourselves are choosing not to abide by. And then we sit back and wonder why there's so much unnecessary pain and suffering in our shared reality. Maybe it has something to do with the fact that we only use our legs to connect to the earth and ground into the earth energy. And we don't use our arms. We just let these things flop by our sides. It's arm, leg, leg, arm, head. The pentagram is actually divine. And we need to take ownership of our karmas. Yes, you can purge them. Yes, you can ascend out of Kali Yuga into Satya Yuga, Age of Enlightenment. Yes, you are deserving of Christ Krishna consciousness and a direct connection to source. So this is the big kick in the behind that we've all been calling in, apparently, because none of us want to do the work. And I get it. Doing one-handed handstands, it's about 3 hours a day of consistent practice. And I definitely had my own drawbacks for the longest time. And I have also dealt with being persecuted by the yoga community and also the hand balancing community on both sides. So it's not easy being a quote-unquote way shower, but it is what it is. So Pluto also goes retrograde, and this is going to be the beginning of a retrograde season. So I was definitely hoping that I would have my aerial rig by now, which I don't because of COVID, but nonetheless, it's training time. It's time to go inside. So this is when people start to act up a little bit, but we have to remind ourselves not to take stuff personally. So Pluto's super far out, so you may not feel it as much, but it's always kind of cool when you can feel it go into its backspin in your practice, and then you go and check online and you're like, oh, that's so sweet. I knew that planet was going backwards. So again, it is an illusion that it's going backwards. It appears to be going backwards from our perspective, but it does actually get closer in its proximity. So the energy of that planet is amplified, and the planet itself will cause the karmic debris or entities in your field to flare up with more intensity. So this is why it is a prime time to go inwards, but also don't take what other people are going through personally, because as we go deeper into the retrograde season and the far out planets start to go into their backspins, everybody's entities get flared up and they usually project. So don't take it personally and try to play Switzerland, stay neutral. So Monday is the big day of the week, the biggest day of the week, and it strikes the chord for the rest of the week. And I think it's time to just put our head down and do the work. We can't persuade people to do the work, and if people are still in denial about how gravity affects subtle body, it's gonna be a bumpy ride for them, but we can still love them from afar, and they are totally allowed to have whatever belief systems that they want. Even, you know, slothfulness is still a philosophy. So if you want to be slothful and not do this work, not engage in the karma yoga, and stay in just the lowermost chakras by just standing and sitting upright, that is entirely up to you. And that's not what I'm going to be doing, of course. So look out for some tutorials. I'm going to try and get out some tutorials today. I got to get back on that boat so that we can get people upside down safely. And nobody is teaching one-handed handstands. So even though my one-handed handstands are pretty shabby, I want to show you guys the one-handed handstand drills. So be looking out for those this week. Wednesday, the moon moves into Sagittarius. So that should be fun to have a little bit of fire in the charts. And it's kind of quirky and weird, but it should be a nice energy to come off of that full moon with. So Thursday, we have Mercury in Taurus, sextile to Neptune in Pisces. And of course, sextiles are a really harmonious aspect. So now's a good time to explore your creative potential. And, you know, if you're feeling a creative expression moving through you, then let yourself be that channel and move with that energy. And of course, Friday, we have the Sun conjunct Uranus. So we've had Mercury conjunct Uranus, we've had Venus conjunct Uranus, and now finally the Big Daddy, the Sun, gets to conjunct Uranus. So this is going to be a really intense energy, again, because Uranus is unpredictable. We do know that Uranus is reminding us to fill out space in the sphere, right? Get Uranus up in the sky. Honor all of the outermost extremities by sending energy through them. Make every part of your body the foundation so that you can share the air element spirit, which is what Uranus is known for. He's Father Sky, or the god of air. So he's seated at the upper echelon of the archetypes. So obviously none of the archetypes are the supreme being, but is about as close as we can get. And again, we have the ongoing struggle between Uranus and Saturn happening, so that should be interesting to have. Still that massive Taurus stellium, and then the Sun and Uranus combined. So again, this is the big kick in the behind to start doing this work, to start being disciplined, to set a regimen for yourself, a routine. And of course, you may not want to go along with light on yoga's sequences where, you know, of course, Iyengar says, start off with your 5 to 10 minute headstand. Maybe your neck muscles aren't ready for that yet. Work with what you've got. You're like a flower or a plant sprouting. So you want to honor yourself and honor your body and do what feels good. Just go for as long as feels comfortable, but really start to get upside down more on a regular basis, and you won't be as zapped by the unpredictability of Uranus, because I mean that's how Uranus communicates with us in regards to where our karmas are at. Just like all the planets let us know where the karmas are at. And again, mostly they're in the upper half because of the way that we've been mentally conditioned as a species since the fall. And it's been effective. I have to hand it to the powers that be. So, but we are waking up, and these transits are no joke. So get upside down. Sunday is the next big aspect. We have a couple things happening. We have Venus in Taurus, sextile Neptune in Pisces. So again, similar, the Venus and Mercury are toe to toe right now. So all the aspects that Mercury goes through, Venus goes through too. And that's going to be also quite nice because sextiles are harmonious. So embrace the serenity that comes with that transit. And we did have Venus and Mercury also conjunct, and they're starting to move apart, but take what we learned from that conjunction last week, and now the feminine knows what she wants, right? We don't just want the current paradigm idea of romanticism anymore. It's been played out. And on a subconscious level, we can all go up to Akashic universal consciousness and feel into every romantic episode that we've ever lived as all parties, because we're all the same self. So it's time to move out of the T-Rex romance and into the fully activated human romance. And in order to do that, we need to process that karmic debris. And Pisces is one of the most psychic signs. So allowing ourselves to be transcendental so that we can see the karmas from all perspectives and understand how they cause the Kundalini energy to deviate, and then what that means when it spills out into your collective holographic projected reality, how that causes unnecessary pain and suffering because of attachments to Maya. So we are breaking free of the cycle of suffering. And I think that's what I might do, just like, again, a little series, because I want to show you also not just how to do the inversions, but how to do the back bends. And there's so much, it's so vast that I might just do a little series of tutorials on just like an inversion or an arm balance, and then also a back bend, so that we are creating the strength, but also the flexibility and balancing the polarities, right? Tantric means to weave. It doesn't mean oral sex. Maybe if you've never experienced an orgasm before, then yeah, actually engaging in the physical act might be beneficial for you. But tantric means to weave, and we want to move that energy up. Most of us are like college frat boys, and we're just, you know, we're coming way too soon. We're petering out in the lowermost chakras. We're not doing a full send. And in order to do the full send, we actually need to take control of our gunas, the wires, the elements, the ways in which the elements flow through nature. And we need to acknowledge that we ourselves are Ganesha, right? I love this astrologer. He's always picking a Ganesha card from a Ganesha deck. And he's like, what does Ganesha have to say? And I'm like, you are Ganesha. You are Ganesha. And of course, always falls on deaf ears. But anyways, I have ears that are listening here. So awesome. And we can rearrange the gunas so that we can run that energy up. And of course, we've all been programmed to overly identify with either the masculine or the feminine channels. And it was the perfect strategy of the dark. I won't get into all the conspiracy theories regarding which different groups they've affiliated with. But it was a brilliant strategy to cause us, through mental conditioning, to overly identify with either the masculine or the feminine, whether we are male or female gender. And so the heart chakra especially is clogged. And if the heart chakra is blocked, then we can't get up to what are the sattvic gunas, the processing elements. Throat chakra is sound or ether, and brow chakra is light. So if we can't get past number 4, we can't process our karmas. And so this is why it's so important. Usually, it's not always the case, because different people have different identifications, and it depends upon how many times you've been a male in past lives. Maybe you still identify with the male gender because you've been a male so many times in past lives, or vice versa. You may be a female, and you've been a female in many, many past lives, and so you have no idea as to how to relate to the male aspect of self. And there may even be males out there that have been females in a lot of past lives. And so now they're a male in this life, and they still overly identify with the female aspect of self. Well, we need to be both. We are androgynous beings energetically. And this is why Thoth becomes Hermes. We get the term hermaphrodite, right? Thoth and Hermes are both strongly tied to what? Mercury. Mercury being the Roman pantheon, Hermes the Greek pantheon, who is the messenger and is also associated with Gemini. Gemini is, we're coming up on it, June, which is actually Gay Pride Month, right? So it's very, very fluid, and some would say neutral, because it's perfectly balanced in male and female energies. So, and this is also the gender principle and the Hermetic principles, right? Everything has a gender. So it was really brilliant that the dark got us to overly identify with one or the other, because it is a huge Kundalini cock block in number 4, especially. Obviously, more often than not, men have too much muscle tension, which is the masculine aspect, which suppresses the feminine aspect. And again, more often than not, a lot of women have too much flexibility, too much openness. Although, again, it's kind of starting to change as a lot of women start to do like CrossFit and things like that, and incorporate male exercises into their fitness regimen. So watch for that, ladies, because we don't want to indoctrinate ourselves with the toxic masculinity aspect of self. And, you know, everything is divine, and it is indicative of how not finding that balance can cause distortions. But it's not a fun distortion to have, because it makes you very close-hearted and not empathic. So very separatist in your way of thinking. And again, I've seen a lot of women do this too, that are really infatuated with incorporating weights. And you can still incorporate weights. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but if you are closing off your heart space, right? If you can't hit the straight line in your handstand and you can't scorpion to save your life, then probably you're creating too much muscle strength that is actually blocking. So, and then of course, all of your interpersonal relationships start to reflect that, as you no longer have empathy with those around you, and you just start to use people as though they were objects. Or what are we seeing right now is an epidemic in narcissism. And I think it's because we are becoming more and more sedentary as a culture. So it's darkest before the dawn. I'm not part of the golden dawn. I'm just saying, literally, because we are becoming more and more shallow in our ability to hold space in each our own spheres of existence. And so there is a tremendous amount of darkness in each our own microcosms. But this actually needs to happen, and it can be really problematic or troublesome to those of us that are doing the work, because it's so obvious to us, but we see people exceedingly become even more shallow and inept in their ability to hold space in their sphere. And it needs to happen so that we can have this crude caricature that creates a blatantly apparent contrast between what it means to hold space and not hold space. And so therefore seeing the importance of holding space. So keep doing the work, because obviously if you've listened this long, you are doing the work. You know the importance of holding space, of embodying sacred geometry, and also gazing inwards with the inner space cosmonaut, the breath, and retrieving this information and processing it with all of the senses, right? Pratyahara, withdrawal of the senses inwards, and also seeing with third eye activation. So it gets easier. It gets easier once your bandha is engaged. You can basically get your pineal gland to excrete a small amount of dimethyltryptamine while you're practicing. You can activate the Merkaba. This is why heart chakra has the two juxtaposed triangles, like the Star of David. You get them whirring and spinning like a UFO, and then you can move your Merkaba through throat, through brow, out through crown chakra, and connect to the universal consciousness, which is 8th chakra. And you can start to process through remote viewing from all perspectives as same self. So again, remember also, again, this is the sextiles happening with Pisces, that we're not just clearing on behalf of ourselves and our own personal past life history. We are healing on behalf of the whole of human history and beyond that. So what landed us here on planet Earth? What sort of things happened in amongst various aliens and various entities? And again, remember not to worship these beings as something outside of the self. So if you are interacting with the Ascended Masters or the Archangels, for instance, remember that they are also you. They're benevolent beings and they're here to help you, but you need to also do the work. And don't freak out when you start to see the maybe darker aspects of self, and don't create that degree of separation either, right? We are the Anunnaki, we are the Archons, we are the Draconians, the Dracos. We are all of it. So, and we are the elite who are doing unspeakable evil behind the scenes. That was kind of funny. Nobody watched the Oscars. Oh boy, this is just the beginning. All will be revealed. So, and then of course, Mercury in Taurus, trines Capricorn, Pluto retrograde. I love a trine. I love trines so much, and I'm so happy that it's 2 earth signs. So that's also happening on Sunday, and we're going to get that retrograde energy. So we've already gone through these degrees. We're starting to go backwards in these degrees in Capricorn, which is kind of nice because it's, you know, all in divine timing, but it's presumably, well, foreseeably stalling our Capricorn Pluto return as a nation. So hopefully we can get this information out to the people, and the best way to do it is through embodiment, lead by example. And hopefully we can get this nation to lead by example, to show humanity how to awaken within themselves their infinite potential. And again, the powers that be are brilliant. I think that the woke culture is almost kind of like, again, a premature ejaculation. You know, we're not doing a full send. Clearly, we're not woke because the Sushumna channel is not conducting energy through the whole central axis. We have our work cut out for us. But it was a great TED talk on this, actually. It's that idea of if you give yourself the reward for what you're seeking to attain, or whatever endeavor you have, if you give yourself the reward prematurely, then you lose your determination and your willpower to fulfill whatever it is that you set out to do. So again, really quite brilliant. And again, mentioning the Oscars too. Yeah. And they're putting out all these movies now that are supposedly about woke culture, and more often than not has a woman as the lead now. And it's just not boding well with a lot of the viewers, and nobody's going to the movies anymore. So that would be, again, this premature idea that the feminine energy has already risen, it's already made its way through crown chakra, when indeed we know that it hasn't. So, and of course, at the Oscars, they're awarded a little golden man. So what is the seed syllable for crown chakra? It's A-U. That's where we get Om, right? A-U-M. Most people spell Om, O-M, but it's A-U-M. And A-U is the binomial nomenclature for gold. So we do not have the earth element holding space in the whole flower of life quite yet. And they're capitalizing on their awareness of Kundalini, which is kind of scary. And so I'm like, if you're doing that, you're going to get some obscenely harsh, bad karma. That's their decision. If they want to do that, if they want to try to manipulate the masses for self-seeking gain using this awareness of Kundalini, that is completely up to them. And again, it's seen everywhere in their symbolism. The single eye, right? That's the passing through the eye of the needle, as Jesus calls it. So the Sushumna channel, balancing, and we have the two snakes weaving up it. So masculine and feminine energy, again, tantric means to weave. So balancing the masculine and feminine strength and flexibility throughout the whole spinal column. Then we are able to move that Kundalini energy up, but yeah, I seriously doubt any of those celebrities or people that have sold their soul are doing that. They're just putting their hand over an eye. It's complete lunacy. So I have hope for them because, of course, I don't believe you can actually sell your soul because you're always entrusted to the divine. And the divine is always holding you. There's always like the sutras, a thread back to source. So, but definitely they're going to have to fall, as it is idolatry worship, modern day idolatry worship, similar to sports and whatnot. So you see all the sports stadiums, and they represent the Colosseums back in ancient Rome. So again, don't be worried. Speaking to the Pluto retrograde, when it starts going forward again, which will be a while because Pluto goes retrograde for a long while. But I just want to kind of prime us for when we do hit that mark and we go into our Pluto return as a nation, the United States of America. We won't see the complete dissemination as we did with Rome. I do believe, because everybody looks to the United States, it's kind of a trend center for the rest of the planet. We will see humans start to activate and embody the cities. And so, again, the meek shall inherit the earth. I think that the United States will set a trend. And then those that don't have a lot of attachments to the hologram, that maybe live in more simple, minimalist means, they are going to just clear the field, clear the whole universal grid so fast. So we'll start to see some cities start to activate in the United States, and then it's going to go full blown, the whole planet. And again, cities are superhuman powers, and yes, you have them. They are dormant within you. Yes, you do have telepathy if you are willing to unearth it, and among other things. So get excited, because when Uranus moves into Taurus, or from Taurus into Gemini, I do think that we'll start to experience telepathy as a species much more so than we do now. Right now, it's kind of fickle. It's coming on board slowly but surely, and of course, people that are doing this work might be able to experience telepathy and interact with each other through that Kundalini activation more readily. So that is the week. Remember that the moon is waning, so get in your handstands at the beginning. Do as much work as you can and try to hold on to that alignment. But as the moon starts to wane, become aware of where the misalignments are and correct them. And yeah, it's going to be great. I think I'm going to absolutely love it when the moon moves into Capricorn and after Sagittarius, because of course I have a Capricorn rising. So enjoy this week. It's gonna be a good one. But again, keep riding these waves as the energy is not going to let up. And again, we're going to see this constant reminder from the astral realm to actually hold space, and still love those that don't think that holding space is necessary, that worship slothfulness, because that has been the constant mental conditioning, mind conditioning that especially our culture has been doused in, steeping in for so long, centuries. So it's okay, you know, we will Shakti pot them eventually, and they will see the importance of holding space. And of course, you can find alignment, so it doesn't have to be that hard, right? We are all children of God, and God also has genders. So Mother Earth, Father Sky, we're just rolling around between Mother Earth and Father Sky, so as to clear our whole vessel, clear our whole sphere. But just lying around on the couch is not going to get us there. So again, I will try to get out some tutorials this week, and I hope that you have a lovely week. It's gonna be a good week for expansion. So keep expanding consciousness in your sphere and contributing to this collective planetary ascension. And we will bring in the new earth. The possible world exists, and we are aligning our actions with it. Namaste.